give your name, speak.
I'm Roxanne, I'm an alcoholic. Can you see me? I can sit down. I can hide. Well, I haven't wanted to do this all week. I still get nervous. It's just a part of it, but they tell you never turn down an AA request, so here I am. Like I was saying, well, I'll talk a little bit. I drank from 9 to 19, and through that time, I did any lengths to get alcohol. If someone was working on a car, I hung around to get the beer. I hung around with my dad in the workshop. Construction workers, whatever it took, I wanted to be around that alcohol. I remember taking my first drink of moonshine when I was 9 years old. I liked it. I craved it. I didn't want to go back from there. So, you know, it's hard to drink at that young age, but like I said, I did the effect, it numbed me, it made me happy, it made me confident, it did what it was supposed to do. I had a boyfriend that decided that he was going to marry somebody else and not marry me, and I went on one of those rip-roaring drunks when I was 19 years old, and I came out of a blackout in the United States Marine Corps. I was on my way to Parris Island. I was at the bus station, and this DI was yelling, sit up, stand up, do this, and I was like, where the hell am I? What's happening? I'll fix this when I get to my location. You know, it's like I didn't realize you can't get out of the United States Marine Corps, but, you know, I got to boot camp. They weren't going to let me out. I was watching other people try all kinds of ways to get out. I drank Scope, Aqua Velvet aftershave, and Listerine, any of the mouthwashes that you can get. I said I had a lot of brothers, so I had a lot of that blue aftershave, so I drank a lot of that. But didn't know I had a problem. Didn't know that you don't trade all your other soaps and hygiene for everybody else's mouthwash. They thought I just had clean breath, I guess. But I remember watching this film about I Will Quit Tomorrow, and it was this thing about alcoholism, and I was like, I'll have to watch that when I get out. You know, maybe I might become one of them. But I just continued on. It was really good when I got out of boot camp, because everybody at the bar bought you a drink. You say you just got out of Marine Corps boot camp? Boy, drinks kept coming. And I got to a place called 29 Palms. Joined the Marine Corps, see the world. Look at where I ended up. That's where I drank until I could not drink one more drop. I got in this van, and I got in with these Marines, and I just drank and used and drank and used and drank and used till June 8th, 1980. That was it. That morning you're an alcoholic. No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. I couldn't get drunk. I couldn't get sober. I didn't know about AA. I didn't know who to call. I just knew God gave me that moment of clarity that made it happen. I stayed sober a little bit by myself. Then I got involved with drug and alcohol counseling on base. And God again said, out of my mouth, what about Alcoholics Anonymous? And the guy made a phone call, and a lady picked me up, took me to my first meeting, the Panorama Ranch out in Joshua Tree, and I've been to AA ever since. I didn't like the things you wanted me to do. I did an awful lot of part of step 1, part of step 12, suiting up, showing up. I finished up school. I didn't go into DTs till I was 60 days dry. They took me from a meeting to the Naval Hospital out there. I was shackled with those leather restraints for about 3 days, just trying to get out of those DTs and withdrawals. And so after that, they sent me to a place called Barstow. Was my next duty station. I got to Barstow. They knew that I needed rehab. I was already 90 days sober, but I needed to get out of society enough to get sober. I was still just really whacked out. So then they sent me to Camp Pendleton. So I went to Camp Pendleton for 12 weeks for rehab, came back to Barstow, and I did the rest of my tour in the Marine Corps sober. That's amazing. It's only through this program. It's only through God. It's only through the people that were in my life. There was not very many women in the program back in 1980 in Barstow. There was only 3, and I did not like women. So the very first sponsor I got was a guy named Lou that was in the Army. He knew how to stay sober in the military. That's what I needed. So he helped me along with staying sober for a while. Then I got his wife later on to help me with my steps. But even that, from that, first 2.5 years, I did a lot of H&I did intergroup. I really was doing a lot of service. There were a lot of women, a lot of people that were in my life at that time pushing you. Go here, do this, take commitments. I'm grateful for that because I didn't have a lot of time on my hands to get drunk, to worry about wanting to pick up a drink. I didn't want to work those steps. I didn't want to change. I didn't think you could not lie, cheat, con, and steal. It was like that was who I was. I was this rough, tough, 19-year-old woman Marine, this rough exterior. That's who I was when I entered Alcoholics Anonymous. But somewhere along the line, at about 2.5 years sober, I was engaged to, I was getting out of a marriage that I got married in my first year of sobriety, which that marriage turned to crap real fast. So at 2.5 years, I was getting out of my divorce with Earl, and I was engaged to Willie, and I was engaged to a guy named Ron. That was how I was dealing with Alcoholics Anonymous. I was dealing with, if you're supposed to have a God, and my guy was my God, I had 3 of them. It was just lined up just in case. Except everybody failed me. That one given time, a male and my wife cannot be my God. And it finally hit me. And that was when I wanted to drink more than I wanted to stay sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. There was just enough in that house that night that kept me here. And I didn't go out to Needles where Ron was. That's where I was going to drink. And the next day, it's like I fired my sponsor. I got a new one. I asked I broke up with both the guys. I fired the God that I had. I had a little of a higher power, but I fired the one I had, and I got a whole new concept. Something that was going to walk through those steps with me because I was scared. I didn't want to walk through those steps. After I worked that first set of steps, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I had such a peace. It's like my life started to make sense. I started losing that fear and those, all that revenge and hostile person I was. There's been a lot of life in 33 years of sobriety. It's like I went through that 2.5 years. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is after all this happened and I worked my steps. This is when I have a God now, and I'm not going to rely on Willie and a guy, and we're getting married, and I'm getting cocky, and I'm like, that's okay, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps, Willie will take care of me, and God went. 13 days before we got married, he was gone, out of my life. He said, see you in 5 years. So that's, one more time, that humility, I have to have God first, no matter what. So I got back on my knees and asked God, what do I do? And the miracles that happened while he was gone that 13 days was amazing. Because I didn't have a lot of confidence. And I showed up at his job and said, what do I do? I had his check by the end of the week, so I had money coming in. Didn't know how to drive a stick shift, so I had to do that. They even had to teach me how to drive the truck. But I was willing. People in the program told me to suit up, show up, and go do these things. So I did. And, all that came about, they $1,400, pay the fines, restitutions, and he was out. He got out the night before we were supposed to get married on March 25th. We didn't get married until April 9th, but we just celebrated 30 years of marriage. So it's been working. It works if I work it. If I take care of me and my higher power and my program, a relationship works. When I try to do it the other way, it doesn't work. In sobriety, we've had so many different things. I wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. God provided us with 2 boys. We raised them sober. They've never seen us drink. Everything was tootling along just fine. I thought everything was dandy until my kids became teenagers. You know, it's like my 13-year-old got arrested for stealing cologne, and then when he was 15, he got arrested for burglary, and we were going in and out of jails, and we were sending him in and out of rehabs, and I had a really hard time. That was my 18th year of sobriety, and because I was kind of taking it back and trying to do it myself and kind of getting away with a little bit of lying, cheating, conning, you know, just little things. That's okay. The insurance will pay for it. It's okay. A lot of self-justification. But when all that happened, I had to take the reins back and kind of look at my program. I had to look at doing things the right way. I can't lie, cheat, and steal and con. I have to take care of things responsibly. I took a lot of guilt, a lot of blame for him getting in trouble. I had to go back to Al-Anon. I've been going to Al-Anon since the very beginning. So I've had both programs back to back. So I got involved with Al-Anon for a while with my kids. The oldest didn't get in trouble that much, a little bit here and there. You know, we did a lot of life in there with the kids, and somewhere in there I decided I would try to go to school. That was one of my major fears when I got sober. It was like I would dream I'm failing. I'm not going to pass high school. I wasn't very good. I only had a 5th grade reading level when I entered the Marine Corps. You know, I struggled a lot with the readings and trying to build myself up. So I took my first little certified nursing assistant class, which was only like 6 weeks, and I got A's, and I was surprised. I was like, wow, I can do this. So I went into another nursing program for 18 months. And the same thing, it was like, well, I'll just do the best I can, 2 classes at a time, and I was getting A's, and I was passing these classes, and it was, God has a sense of humor. Every 2 classes, something happened in my life. It was like the first set of classes, my mother-in-law passed away. The second one, my son broke his arm. The third one, Willie flew off the motorcycle and broke his arm. I had both of them broken arms at the same time, and I'm trying to go to school. You know, it was like all kinds of different things. I flipped a minivan during that time in the snow. But I suited up and I made up all my hours. And upon graduation, I had a 4.0 and perfect attendance. Only you people in Alcoholics Anonymous helped me achieve that and my higher power. It's like ask for guidance every day. Just keep doing what I'm doing. I was so surprised at some of the confidence that built in my life. A lot of confidences. I know I'm not done yet, but I have to retrain my brain. Let's see, so after I got out of school, where are we at? Okay, so I got through my schooling, I was working toward my nursing degree, kind of working my life, the kids are out getting out of school and different things, graduating. I did some work at the hospital, you know, with my nursing, a CNA, and some medical assistant and some stuff for a few years, so just kind of normal stuff. But in 2003, God had a sense of humor again, and I was on some black ice in Colorado, and I flipped and fell and slammed into a tire on a truck, and I really messed up my back, and I to now know I'm disabled. So all that going to school, I was so angry at first that now I can't work, I can't continue my nursing, I can't even hold down a job right now because of my back, but wondering what to do next. You know, going back to that higher power, asking my God of my understanding, what do I do now? So what I came up with is what I've been taught. You have to give the program away to keep it. So I just told myself that while I'm injured and I'm going through all this, I've seen so many people. So I was 20-something years sober at this time. Go back out after X amount of time of sobriety, especially with injuries. I don't want to go back on a whole bunch of pain pills. I don't want to get back into the drug life. I don't want to I had to really be very honest with my doctors. I had to have a really good frame of mind of how to get through an injury. Some of the things that, the same thing back when I did my boys, I did all the Lamaze and natural childbirth because I didn't want to do drugs. So I had those techniques, and I learned how to kind of manage my pain in a lot of different ways, and try to learn how to, kind of like say, be available for other people, to sponsor, get more active in the program. So we decided to come out. We were trying to get out here at that time. This was 2003. We were in Colorado. We moved out here. I was supposed to work at Barstow Hospital. Of course, now I'm not going to work. He's going to go back to Fort Irwin. And he never got rehired. The people's house we were supposed to sit for a year. The guy died 30 days after we got here. Everything flips. You make plans, God laughs, and you're on your butt going, now what? There's been so much time in my sobriety that that's what's happened. And each time I have to maybe go back and do another set of steps. Sometimes I have to stop and get another sponsor to see if the sponsor can kind of help direct me and get me back on. I've had 7 different sponsors over the years, and I still believe they all had a reason. You know, they all had a purpose. There was something I needed to deal with in my life at that time. So I don't think you're ever done, you know, just because you got through them and you know, I'm never going to do that again. Things come up and things happen. So, you know, so we're here, and I'm trying to get reactive in the program out here. And one of the things that happened when we moved out here, I didn't have a real good, close relationship with my mom and dad. They lived in Phoenix, and it was okay, but it wasn't a mother-daughter Hallmark moment ever, you know. And she asked me when I told her we were moving back to Barstow, she said, do you mind if we move with you? And I'm like, you guys have been living in Phoenix for 40 years. What do you mean you want to move to Barstow? They didn't even like it out here. And I was like, well, I guess, but I really didn't think they'd ever move. I really never thought they would ever leave that house. And they actually moved and got out here first. So it was kind of crazy when we were at this rental place and we needed to move and we weren't having money coming in. Things were, you know, very chaotic. And that was one of the statements I had said, don't ever say that. I said I would live in the same town as my mom, but not with my mom. And we had to move in with my mom. We got a little travel trailer and parked it in her yard. And when she first asked me, so you're just going to move in here? And I'm like, no, I'm not. You know, but we made the best out of it. I got the little travel trailer so we could at least go out there at night. We were in the house in the daytime. I got to get to know my mom. It was kind of neat to have that relationship in sobriety. That ended up taking 18 months before we finally got in a house and escrow and all the things that happen with, you know, that's another God shot. You gotta be patient. Very, very patient. Maybe Friday, maybe Monday, maybe Friday, maybe Monday. And I didn't think we were ever going to get to move out of my parents' house. But we finally got to move in our own little place. And I had a lot of people in the program at that time ask me, how did you buy a house? You're not even working. It's like, God provides one way or the other. We have, I have a little disability check. He has a little Social Security. God worked it out. We got to buy a house. And that's only because we're both sober and because we're working this thing. Because we're not out there, you know, doing the chuck and jive anymore. We don't play that game. I'm so grateful, first in my life that doesn't happen, but my mate doesn't do that either. You know, we are really into Alcoholics Anonymous and what it's done for us. We're a whole different people. Nothing like what we used to be like. I hear his stories and his brother's stories, and I'm just like, I can't believe that this is the person I'm married to today. But anyway, after we moved into that house, it's like things settled down for a while. Newberry only had one meeting at that time, and I really don't do well with just one meeting a week, even at 30 years sobriety. So now there's 3. We've added, we have a 12 and 12. We have a big book study, which I am a firm believer in the books. I like participation in other meetings, but I really like to study the book. I can't quote it word for word, but I know it inside and out, and it's the parts in there that saved my life. So that helped a lot by getting those meetings out there and it's kind of pulling. We want alcoholics to come, you have breakfast. Our Saturday morning breakfast group started with just about 3 of us, and now we've got a big group. It's really good. It's really got a lot of support, and I'm forever grateful for that. But somewhere in there, I needed, because I am in Newberry and my back injury, it's hard for me to drive to Barstow. It's hard to drive in here, get to meetings, and I needed more. It's like, how can you get that spirituality? How can you get some of that? You get tired of the same old crony stories over and over and over again. There's about 10 of us out there. You know, you got good long time sobriety, but I need more. So I found online AA. I did not know that that existed. There's several of them out there now, but there's a chat room that's open 24/7 that I can do 12-step work in. I like to be up a lot at night. With my back injury, I'm kind of up and down, up and down. So I go in and I offer this program of Alcoholics Anonymous to other members all over the United States. You know, they pop in there, you look up central office in their area, you tell them where meetings are, you give them hotlines, you give them suggestions. There's a big book on the site, you tell them where it's at, tell them how to get to online meetings. That's good 12-step work for me. That works for me in my life because it's so hard for me to get in the car. It's so hard for me. You know, even coming today, my legs are kind of numb, and I was frustrated this afternoon about having to get in the car and come here. But, you know, I'm here, and it's going to work, and God will take care of me, and I'll sit in the hot bathtub when I get home. So it'll work. But I think no matter what state you are in your sobriety, you got to find what it works for you. Like in the beginning, the H&Ls, the going to the Boron prison, the inner group, GSR, all that worked good in my life. I've had other women's commitments to different conventions and different things over the years. I don't think I've ever not been in AA in some way or another, and I think that's why I'm still here today. I have not been able to take the reins back and say, I've got this. You know, that was my confidence level when I first got here. That rough, tough, strong woman I called back then. But the woman that I've become in Alcoholics Anonymous that's full of self-worth and confidence, and I'm never afraid to ask any questions, and I'm not full of that fear, and I'm definitely not full of all that revenge and get even, and I let go of all that in my step work. I'm such a different, confident woman today. And that took a long time, too. I went to, when we were in Colorado still, I still didn't like going to the women. I didn't like talking to you ladies. I went to a men's stag group in Colorado for a long time. It was like it was the only meeting on that particular day in the area that I was. I needed a meeting. They let me come. It was okay because I was there for my sobriety. Somewhere along the line, I went to a women's retreat, and I decided it was okay for me to like the women. And today, you know, it's different. I can be confident with the women. I can sponsor women. I can have sponsors women. I like being a woman today. I like being a lady. It's a lot different than where I came from, that's for sure. But as I was going through, like I said, kind of building up my spiritual pathway, I guess, on my online and doing some of the things that I was doing in AA back then, my mom got sick in 2010, and I didn't know how sick. You know, it's run back and forth to doctor's appointments and different things, and she finally asked to go on hospice, and she actually passed away in 6 days after she went on hospice. But the interesting part of that is I was her caregiver. She got to die with her last breath with me and my dad. And I got to live that living amends to all that harm I caused my parents. That's awesome. That's where this program comes from. So many of you sometimes don't get a chance to do that. Sometimes we lose our loved ones before that happens. I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to be there. That those, let's see, 6 years or so that we got to live together out there in Newberry Springs and do holidays and go shopping. And, I got some good quality time with my mom before she died. And, of course, mate after 50 years wants to lose their mate. And so my dad was just lost. He just, after 51 years, was like, what do you mean she just died? What now? So I got to take care of my dad, and that was very interesting in sobriety. He was 80 years old, and trying to teach your dad how to online date at 80 is very interesting. He got on seniors.com, and he wanted these. Of course, he wasn't picking the ladies anywhere from 60 to 80. He wanted a 30-year-old. Oh my gosh. But, we went through he did anything I asked him to do. He was, so lonely. So we tried that. So I tried church. So he went to some church, and I drug him around to some AA functions and, different things. And he eventually, we went to some senior dances, and he found him a little lady friend for a little while. And it was nice. It was a little awkward for me at first. Our first Thanksgiving that he asked Billy to be with us at our dinner table, it was kind of like, my mom should be here. But I supported my dad and his, what he needed. And that's when my dad got sick. He was having some kidney failure and some heart problems. And so that was November of 2011. And he went on hospice right after that. He actually did last almost 30 days. He didn't die until December 17th. We had time to get my brothers out here. We had time to, spend some time together. But everywhere, I was talking with my sponsee in here when we were coming in that sometimes you say, I'm never going to be around drugs and alcohol. It just ain't going to be in my life. You sometimes have no control. And that's what happened in my life during that 21 days. I had to be there to take care of my dad. My brothers came out and were both using. They were both drinking. There was just bottles and confusion and snorting pills on the bathroom cabinet. And I'm hiding my dad's liquid morphine and different things so that they don't take it. And it was insane. But I had that online chat room 24/7. And I could stay connected to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I feel like that chat room saved my life during that time. You could make phone calls, but I couldn't really sneak off to go to any meetings during time. So it was like only that chat room helped me and my higher power and the knowledge of everything that everybody gave me. That's how I got through all of that. And it was like, some of it was just so, it took me back to that insanity of what drugs and alcohol do. Watching my brothers get into fist fights, and they've been in and out of jail since my parents died. And my little brother basically has about 120 days sober now, but they just went rip-roaring into partying and drinking, and I got to stay sober through that. I got to call you ladies in Alcoholics Anonymous, show up out. Gail and some of those were out at that one meeting out there in Hesperia when my mom died. And I walked in the door, they said, you're sharing the meeting. I'm like, okay. And that's how this thing works. All the things that have happened is just, oh man, so amazing. So walking through some of this, even since my dad passed in 2011, the same thing. My older brother jumps in and said he's supposed to be the executor, but he didn't want to do anything. He's like, I can't do anything. I live in Kentucky. So I ended up cleaning out the house, took care of all the responsibilities. I got to do those living amends for my parents again. It's like, that's the things that everybody teaches me I have to do. And I was grateful for that. You look back now and it's so hard to see some of their treasures and cleaning out their house. My mom was very, very particular about, don't you touch my computer. Don't you touch my sewing machine. And I wish she would have taught me some things, because I got these sewing machines. I don't know how to run them because she would never teach me. And the first time I had to take something out of her computer, it was like, oh my gosh. But there's been so much, I've just had so much love and so much support and so much guidance in all of this pathway of sobriety. Since my dad died, that's kind of where we're at now, but my older son came out and helped me a little bit when my dad died and lived in my dad's house while I cleaned out the stuff. And he's the same thing. He was into his drinking and his girlfriend and their partying and their recklessness, and they, broke a bunch of stuff with my mom's, and it was kind of really hard to see another drug addict, alcoholic type person in my life. And he got in trouble a year ago and had to go to jail. And he had a job when he went to jail, so he actually got bonded out, and he come to live with us. And so he's been living with us the last year sober. He just celebrated his year sober here a few days ago. He's got a new job. He didn't do AA the way I wanted him to. He went to AA for 90 days. He switched girlfriends. He's switching jobs. He got a new girlfriend with a little girl, and now he's got a baby on the way. All in a year sober. It's like, oh my gosh. So my first grandson is going to be due here in about 3 months, and so that's kind of exciting. Where we're at today is it's just a few days ago with the prayer, and he's been praying for a job down at Visalia where his girlfriend is, and he just got it. So he'll be actually moving out next week, and that's going to be just me and my maid again for a while. What a concept! It's been a long time since we've had that. My other son, very, very difficult. My other son is 28 years old this month. And he's been on the street since he's been 18, basically. He's been in and out of rehab from 15 to 18. I did everything I could till he was his 18th birthday. When he got off of paper, he's on his own, and he's been in and out of jail, in and out of parks, in and out of mental hospitals, but he won't get sober. We're saving him a seat, but he's not sober yet. I'll mention it to him, and he'll, oh, pot isn't it? Nope, alcohol's not it. It's everything else is his problem. But I understand that, because I thought when I got here, you remove the drugs and alcohol, your life is going to be wonderful. That little pink cloud you get for a while until everything just starts falling apart. And there's just, oh man, there's been so many. I was just thinking about that particular one too. My higher power really has a sense of humor. He makes me work for it a lot. When I was breaking up with all my boyfriends and I was I guess I was with Willie and I was with Ron at the same time. The Marine Corps did some testing on me, and they called me in like on a special thing one night to get these shots called penicillin, because they said I had gonorrhea. And I was like, there's no way. But, it's like, okay, and I took these shots, and then I went home and I talked to my sponsor, and of course my sponsor's going, you got to tell both your mates. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And so I did. I told the gunny sergeant, Ron, that I was with, and of course he freaked out because he's a gunny sergeant. I'm not supposed to be with them. He's married. He's just flipping out in all kinds of different directions. But I told him, and I'm kind of like, I guess we weren't broken up at that point, but I told him, and he did his pathway, and I went home, and I was living with Willie at the time, and when I asked him, and he was like, I was so scared to tell him, and he's like, don't worry about it, you don't have it. He had such a God consciousness about him in his early sobriety, it was scary, because I didn't have that God real early, he did. And he kept telling me that, don't worry about it, it's okay, you don't have it, don't worry about it, you don't have it. So we went back, him and me went back to the Marine base 2 weeks later when they were supposed to grow this in the Petri dish and all this stuff. And the corpsman is looking at me and he's like, who told you had gonorrhea? You don't have that. There's nothing here. There's nothing in your record that shows you have this. But it was a growing experience for me and my higher power, I'll tell you what. It made me stronger in a lot of ways. When things go bad today, my sponsors tell me, you gotta look back at history. So when things aren't going good, I look back at history. That turned out. When Willie went to jail, that worked out. If I look back at the miraculous things that took place in my life, it works out. I look at the way I was going to school, the way when we moved out here and trying to get that house, and all the things that have happened with my son and illnesses, and we've had some scary stuff with me and Willie since we've been together. In 2007, he decided to take me on a joyride in the desert, asleep. We were coming back from VA, and we were out there in Newberry on national trails, and we went off into the dirt, and I'm just thinking he's missing something, and I'm talking to him, and his head's in my lap, and I'm like, I realize that he is no longer in charge of this car, and going, through this, like this, 70 miles an hour in the dirt, and we hit a telephone pole, and the telephone pole, and of course I'm dead awake through this, telephone pole, airbags, we flipped around, the telephone pole got the whole side of his side of the car, broke all the glass, flipped us again, we crossed the street and in a ditch. What a wild ride. But you know what? We were okay. And because of it, they found out his blood pressure was low and had some oxygen problems. And it's kind of a weird way, like, can't God just say go to the doctor and have a test? It's like, oh my gosh, some of the things that we've went through. But, the same thing, I flipped that van in the snow in Colorado. I didn't think I'd ever have car accidents. I'm sober. I never thought those kind of things would happen to me. I never thought my kids would be in trouble. And watching your 15-year-old be shackled and the things that we went through when he went to jail was terrible. It was beyond emotional. But my higher power got me through it. You people in Alcoholics Anonymous, the people in Al-Anon, they all went to court with me. I have not ever been alone through anything since I've been sober. No matter if I'm in the hospital, I've had meetings taken to me, I've been at home in wheelchairs, meetings taken to me, on the end of a phone, if you're in a strange city, strange state. Somebody is always connected to Alcoholics Anonymous on that other end of that phone, whether you can make it to a meeting or not. Oh, I'm glad I'm running out of time, because I am kind of running out of story, but there's always more. See what kind of things I come up here with, anything different. Just a little bit about the book, some of my favorite places in the book. I really like we all quote that acceptance chapter, the page of acceptance in 449 and 417 and 420, and there's another page in the big book, 47, that talks about accepting that higher power, that accepting something beyond my control that will help me in my sobriety, beyond what I can even comprehend at that point. And I think that's in the agnostic chapter, actually. And I wouldn't read the agnostic chapter because I have higher power. I wouldn't read To Wives because I'm not a to wife, But the book, all the way through, to me, is very important. I know some people say that the program is in the first 164 pages, but I feel like those stories before and after are important too. So I really like that one part about the acceptance and the paradoxes of AA. We surrender to win, we give away to keep, we suffer to get well, and we die to live. That's in a story in the second edition of the big book, and I love those things because if I hadn't surrendered on June 8th, 1980, I would not be here alive today. I would not be a winner. They say to stick with the winners. Meeting makers make it. I like being a winner. I like being around this program. I like having that. I like being this confident woman that I am today. I've really been thinking about that strong woman that I thought I was when I was 10 foot tall, bulletproof, and a woman Marine. But that one was so full of selfishness and no self-worth and revenge. And today I have self-worth and confidence and a higher power and I have strengths and things that I don't even know I can go through yet until it's time. I didn't think I could take my parents to their last breath. I didn't think I could do, there's a lot of things I didn't think I could do, but here I am today to show it and know it, and I think I'm probably about done. Thanks for letting me participate in everybody's recovery.